Well, warmest of greetings to you, one and all. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. Welcome cordially to the Christian Whistleblower channel. We're very, very honored that you chose to spend a little bit of your Saturday night with us. I'm coming to you live from the deep in the heartland of America, and hopefully this will get right into your heart. That's our plan anyway. And tonight, it's my privilege to bring to you a man that I had the opportunity to shake his hand and meet him a little bit over at the I always want to call it RexCon, but I think they actually called it LeakCon. My guest tonight is the one, the only, Greg Allison of Green Greg's. Greg, welcome aboard.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, except I got a little bit of hat envy right now. That's a nice looking hat you got there.
Well, you know what? They're real handy to keep all this hair out of my eyes.
Oh, I gotcha. I don't know if you ever saw any pictures of me about 3 years ago, but I had my Greg Allison starter set going. I had a little beard going, and I had some hair. It wasn't quite as long as yours, but I was working on it.
Yeah. Well, it is an investment in time.
It is an investment in time. And I mean, once you cut it off, you're like, oh boy, it would take me way too long to go back in that direction.
Well, last time I had hair like this, I got a cut like Rex did recently.
I think Rex might have done that himself. In fact, the rumor is he got out of the shower and his wife, Kristen, didn't even know he did it. And she was quite surprised.
I bet.
She was surprised. Greg, what did you talk about over at LeakCon a few weeks ago?
Well, I actually talked about three things. I had two talks, but one of them I kind of combined two topics in. So I talked about power grid defense and the one that was videotaped, the one that's like, that you can go in and do the pay-per-view. Because I've chaired a couple of power grid defense conferences, and it's something I take on because it's dear to me, that I see that as one of the big obstacles in our society, one of our biggest threats. And I'm not one to say, oh, we got a threat, let's roll over, and oh my God, what are we going to do? Or there's always people that say, well, they will take care of it. You know what? We are the they.
We are they.
Us. So if you want to get the job done, get off the couch and do something about it. You got to take it by the horns and deal with it. That's
Greg,
right.
Tell me what you said before, how you deal with the problem.
You got to grab it by the horns and deal with it.
Kick down the door, you said.
Kick down the door. Yeah, kick down the door and go in and take care of business. Yeah,
I love that.
Previous in our private conversation. But
yeah,
I'm leaving. You got to take charge. And the thing is, the key thing is what's in your heart, what's your interest. And you may not be that knowledgeable in the topic area to start with, but once you get the interest there, you're going to learn it and study it, and you will get there. You got to believe in yourself. There's so many people that don't believe in themselves out there. But, that's where it starts. I mean, when I first decided I wanted to do aerospace, to be an engineer, to work space stuff, I didn't know if I could even do the algebra. I had no clue. I didn't know, but I wanted to do it. So, but you know what? The brain is a muscle, and you can exercise it just like anything else. And you exercise it, you're going to develop it. I told my daughter that. She was all worried, and now she just started a job as an intern engineer.
Ooh. So you decided that you wanted to be an engineer. You decided you're going to test yourself and stretch yourself. And where did that end up?
Well, that's what I do today. I'm working today in my regular job. I work as a contractor at NASA. I do system safety on the avionics of the space launch system. I cover everything.
That's fairly important, isn't it? The safety systems of the avionic launch system.
Well, but it's a challenge. There's a lot of management. They have to make decisions based on a lot of criteria other than safety, unfortunately. And so my job is basically I paint a rock and I take it to them.
Yeah.
Whatever with it. But once I've said my say, I've said it. Now there are recourses you can take if you don't agree and so forth.
Right.
But in my opinion, once the top management know it, I'm gonna leave it there.
Awesome. Now you also do worm farming, but let's stay with this for a minute because that's fascinating to me. For some reason, and I've never understood this because I grew up in Florida. And I, grew up watching the space shuttles go up and watching Apollo go up before that. And I went over to NASA and I took the tour. And I was 6 years a C-130 crew chief in the Air Force. So I know a little bit about what a workable airframe looks like. So I'm at
the Air Force.
I was stationed for 3 years at MacDill Air Force Base in Tacoma, Washington, and then 3 more years at Rhein-Main Air Force Base in Frankfurt, Germany.
I lived in flight line and flight side later of Pope Air Force Base when I was at Fort Bragg.
Well, since I was in the C-130 business, I was at Pope once or twice.
Oh, I bet. We
Like
call
once.
those C-130s flying pigs,
Yeah, the hogs. Even the people that love them call them hogs. But I went to NASA and I looked at the airframes they had on display, and I looked at them and I studied them, and every one of them looked to me like it's a workable airframe. But yet in this weird conspiratorium that we're in, everybody wants to talk about NASA. Never a straight answer. Why does NASA get such bad press in the conspiracy realm?
Well, because a lot of people have a lot of different ideas about what is, kind of paraphrase.
Yeah, Mr. Clinton.
Mr. I did not have sex. My cigar did.
Yeah, that's a good impression. That's about as good as mine.
Boy, that was one good cigar. Hey, you got to have some fun, Jeffrey. All right,
you do.
So, and I like to have a little fun. But now, honestly, a lot of people actually think NASA is just way bigger than it really is. And the truth is, there's no one NASA. NASA has different field centers. And every field center's got a personality and a mission of its own. I mean, and a lot of people think anybody at NASA knows everything about everything at NASA. No, we got our own little cubby holes, stovepipes. Now, being a person that's interested in space, I do try to keep up with the other stuff as much as time permits. But there's JPL. They're in their own little universe and other planetary probes. JSC is in term, Johnson Space Flight Center in Houston. Everybody thinks that's NASA. They're in charge of the manned space flight part of it, but actually the largest space flight center is the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama.
No kidding.
How many people go, you got Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama? I said, yeah, that's where Von Braun was in Alabama. I said, yes.
That's, people wouldn't believe you unless you could prove it to them. That's because I'm from Florida, and even I kind of look down my nose at Alabama.
Hey, we're a good kept secret. We're going to keep it that way. Alabama doesn't just move on through because it's all grandpa and grandpa sitting on the front yard with their shotgun and moonshine jugs.
Yeah.
Move on through.
But the thing about it is, you don't know the grandpa works at NASA in the safe avionics, and you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming.
Yes, I like that picture you posted. You got on my Facebook site with me with the scythe. Hey,
I did.
That grass that was mowed around where I was at, I cut that.
With that scythe that's in your hand?
Actually, I used a different scythe than that one, but I cut it with a scythe. Yeah, I can mow grass with a scythe.
That's amazing. I mean, it reminds me, I'm a little bit old, and I remember Charlie Daniels singing about a country boy can survive. And cousin, that's the truth, isn't it?
It is.
So let's segue a little bit into worm farming from that. Tell me about worm farming.
Well, it's like that song, my day job is at the government. And quite frankly, it's the existence of my job is at the whim of politics. And it blows like the wind from party to party and this to that. And, it's just not that stable. So I just kind of asked myself one day, what can I do on my own 2 feet, on my own 2 acres to make a living? Now, in rocketry, we have a terminology for efficiency of an engine called specific impulse. That's pound thrust per pound fuel. There's several other ways to express that, but it's actually the units of that is in seconds, believe it or not. But
interesting.
Yeah. So, I was thinking the same way. I needed an economic specific impulse, something that can produce a lot of value in a small area. And in one of my videos,
you needed a lot of thrust, right?
Yes. And I got a buddy who put a rocket engine on the back of his pickup truck, and he, on the tail of his truck, he put "In thrust, we trust."
That's beautiful.
And he and I got in an article both in Smithsonian Magazine. They interviewed both of us for an article in Smithsonian Magazine. That was the title of the article, "In thrust, we trust."
I love it.
But if you search on those words, you might get some stuff out of San Francisco. So
you might get something out of San Francisco. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer in Top Gun. Only they said they feel the need for speed, but what they really felt the need for was thrust. They just didn't know it, right?
Right, exactly. It's thrust, acceleration. So And along those lines, so what I was looking at was something that had a lot of specific return from a small area. And what I found, and I did a video on this, like why worm farm, one of my earlier worm farm videos on my Green Greg's channel. People should go to Green Greg. Just go to YouTube and type in GREEN, a space, and GREG, just one G, and then the S with no apostrophe. And you'll find Green Greg's, and then go down and look for the worm farming videos. And there's one's 5 key things about raising worms, and that's a really good one. That's my top running video of all of them. But there's another one that talks about why raise worms.
Mm-hmm.
I point out where I've got like 4 by 8 foot beds of worms in a very small area, and I say, hey, in terms of the equivalent dressed out meat, worm weight versus beef weight, I can produce a steer a year right here.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that weird question. If things really got bad, Greg, could you yourself eat worms?
Yeah. The worm has a nutty flavor, actually. It's been
no kidding.
But the cool thing about the worms is you can use them to make compost. They're far better to make compost to fertilize your garden with, worm tea.
Right.
When it goes down, say I get 2 kinds of people come to my channel. I get people just interested in worm farming. Well, really 3 gardeners, or they're usually pretty close, and then preppers, and they don't really get along too well. And when I post a video in one area, the other guys unsubscribe like crazy. It's like, really? It's all the same thing. And I spank the preppers occasionally. Say, hey man, you're gonna starve because you don't know how to live. You don't know how to grow a garden. And the key thing is that if it goes down, and I hope it don't, but if it goes down, and I fight to keep it from going down. Okay, that's part of what I do. But if it does go down, and I'd ask people to do that, in my videos. So I say, hey, join the cause. But if it does go down, you're not going to go to the store and buy fertilizer. You're not going to be going to the store and buying seed. If you do know how to garden, do you know how to garden without going to the store and buying things? So I cover how to do that. Get worms, raise worms, and produce from your waste the compost that will make the perfect fertilizer from your garden by recycling what you have. And you know what? That also ports into space, because when we live in space, we're going to need a closed loop ecological life support system. And guess what? If you are taking a bunch of pharmaceuticals and all the crap we do in our modern society, in a small scale space habitat, that's going to accumulate real bad and cause horrible problems. You better learn how to have a true organic ecological system and recycle things that are clean. And so, believe it or not, we're going to have worms in space. So,
I was going to say, you need to copyright that right now. Worms in space.
Right. Hey, dude, I sell wormhole generators, by the way.
Wormhole generators.
Exactly. So
tell me what that is.
Well, it's just, well, what a wormhole is, the concept for space, where space-time bends around and you go through it. But, worms make holes, right?
Yeah. So they make holes in the ground, right? They aerate the soil.
Exactly. So the worm is the wormhole generator.
Oh, I got you. The worm is all right. I'm with you. I'm a little slow, but I'm with you.
Hey, when you're a worm farmer, you got to have some.
You got to have a sense of humor. So, Greg, let me ask you. People living, I'm in a great situation. I'm living on some land, and I've got some places where I have a sneaky feeling that we're going to be starting to do some worming. And if somebody has just a regular house with a regular backyard, can they actually start to do some worm growing themselves?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And there are people grow them in their backyards. There are people that grow them in their garages or basements. Now, if you're way up north, basements and garages are great places to grow. But also, you can grow them. They've grown them in Canada in ground beds outside. And what they would do is in the wintertime, they'd throw in a little cow manure on the side to create or some compost to help create a little heat in it, and then just bury the whole thing in leaves. Now, you'd section the top off where the worms aren't getting out, but then you just bury the whole thing in a pile of leaves for insulation. And even in Colorado, in the mountains, I've seen where people would let the worms freeze out, but then they'd bury the bed in leaves, and then all the little cocoons that they leave with the eggs in them will hatch out a whole new crop of worms in the spring. So
interesting.
Worms worms, when they think they're going to freeze to death, throw out a lot of cocoons. And one way to get them to stimulate their breeding, if you have a temperature controlled facility, is to bring the temperature down close to freezing.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So what happens, Greg? I'm gonna ask some stupid questions, but what happens when you got your box of worms and the worms keep doing what worms do and multiplying? Can't you get too many worms in that box?
Well, you got many choices. You can put them in your yard; they're good for the soil. You can put them in your garden, which is even better, and they will like it even better if you have a nice compost layer in the garden. If you're growing organic garden, that's what you absolutely should have. And my garden is full of worms, by the way. And in some of my videos on green grass, you might notice when I'm talking about digging, when I'm digging in the garden, man, you'll see I'm showing worms. I basically do no-till raised bed gardening in my main garden areas, and I've got like a gardening one-on-one. I got where I'm planting radishes and planting turmeric and stuff like that. I grow turmeric because it has huge medicinal benefits.
Absolutely.
I probably can't really say what they are because the AMA will slap me. You know, we got such wonderful freedom of speech in our country, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our liberties, you know, thanks to your buddy Abe, you know, they're somewhat curtailed now, you know.
That's for sure. So we could go to Green Greg's on YouTube and we could learn from start to finish how to do a worm garden and then how to start getting into actually using the worms to garden and grow food to sustain ourselves.
Yeah, now I've just produced I'm just filmed a video. I have it uploaded on worm tea. That will be coming out real soon on green.
Do you drink worm tea?
Well, if you did, it either make you grow or make you go.
Okay. So you don't drink it, right?
No, it's for plants.
Okay, I got you.
It's an all natural liquid pest repellent and fertilizer. Like I said, you gotta have a system.
Pest repellent.
Yes, not pesticide, pest repellent.
Nice. So it's an all natural pest repellent and fertilizer. So you're telling me I don't need to put Raid or any other type of chemical, and I don't need to go buy Miracle Grow either.
No, you don't need either one. And I talk about other tricks that's good for the garden in some of my videos, like planting radishes. What they do is if you plant squash, you got to worry about vine borers. When I first grew squash in my garden, vine borers got in all the squash vines and killed them. And what I discovered was if you plant radishes there first, the vine borers will not live in that garden bed because there's some chemical the radish puts out, an enzyme that they hate. And so that's a good defense against the vine borers. Worm tea, if you spread on the leaves of your plant, when the leaves will soak up the nutrients directly from the worm tea, and it fights mold, mildew, rust, and the bacteria within the worm tea, it's a probiotic. It's its main attribute. Will kill a lot of your soft body bugs, worms, and deter a lot of insects from biting your plants. Not all of them. I mean, like squash bugs, stink bugs, what we call them here. They're like little tanks, you know. There's different ways to deal with those, and I'll show those in a future video when my squash plants go up when they start attacking. But they're a whole different menace and require a different regime of control, which is doable, but it does take some work.
Gotcha. So why does a prepper want to deal with worms?
Well, because it's an opportunity to make your own fertilizer when the stores aren't there, so you can grow your own food. Because your prepping supplies are only going to last so long if somebody don't steal them from you.
That's a good point.
Seeds are easier to hide, and they're very compact. If you need a bug out, it's a lot easier to carry a packet of the seeds than it is 100 pounds of food on your back. You know, and yeah, you ain't carrying 100 pounds of food. In fact, your total weight you carry on your back shouldn't be more than 10% of your body weight, and 5% would be even better.
Yep.
If you're bugging out now, if you're on a slow hike, you know, you might carry an 80-pound pack. I've done it, but you know, that ain't what you want to carry. If you're bugging out, you know, you got to really be tactical. So, in fact, if you've got a bug out, be tactical. You want to be unseen. You want to be a stealth camper, stealth hiker. If you can be seen, you can be dealt with very badly.
You can, and unfortunately, with relative ease.
Yes, your prior service, you have probably seen the live fire exercises that show that if you can be seen, you can be shot and killed in like 3 to 4 seconds.
Oh, absolutely. And there's people that can do it without even batting an eye.
Bingo, exactly. So
from a long, long way before you see them.
And you can see the live fire exercise today in a field where it looks like it's raining. It's just a few guys firing into the field. And it looks like it's raining. fall. I mean, a lot of people out here don't realize. I always get tickled by, like the Rambo shows, big tough guys wide open walking out with his M60 hip shot, and he's standing right out in the open, and he's killing all these people hiding behind stuff, like, yeah, right.
It's the craziest thing. And, I remember, I wasn't on this type of C-130, but I got to actually fly on one. There's a C-130 that's got some guns on it that it can lay down a bullet every square inch.
I believe that's called A-130 for attack.
I'm not sure, but yeah, the C is for cargo. That's the ones I flew on. It'd be an AC-130, actually.
We used to sing on C-130 rolling down the strip. Airborne daddy going to take a little trip. Stand up, hook up, shuffle through the door. Jump right out and count to 4. If my chute don't open wide, I got another one by my side. If that one does fail me too, a move your I'm a coming through.
Exactly. I saw a lot of people jump out of perfectly good airplanes, Greg.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't do that, even though I was at Fort Bragg. Now, my dad did it in World War II. I got some videos of him, too, on my Green Gregs. So, yeah, his third training mission was combat. He didn't know it till they got up. The whole plane, a load of guys thought they were on a training mission because they were supposed to get 3 training missions, and they found themselves way over the enemy line.
Yeah, the third one was a bonus, huh? KW Harris in the chat room jumped out of several C-130s.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Cool.
I wonder if I saw KW do it. So that's a good reason why someone that's interested in prepping would want to do worm farming. Now, Ariane, I'm just asking, you're talking about generating revenue. If I'm building my worm farm and I get a bunch of worms, can I sell them to the people that are fishing in this lake?
Oh, yeah. So the red worms they're not the biggest worm, but they're about 3 to 4 inches. And that's what all the old timers used to raise to fish with, because you can raise them outdoors in most places.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I raise mine outdoors. You can see that from my videos.
At Green Greg's YouTube channel.
Yeah. And I also cover things like raising microgreens. I do some organic gardening type videos. I do videos to show what you can eat in the wild. Like I did a video on showing how you can eat parts of a pine tree. I mean, my gosh, why would you ever starve to death if you can eat pine trees? I mean, for Pete's sake. So
Greg, it sounds like you've got a very important YouTube channel.
I try. I'm trying to put out information that people can use to thrive and survive and stay out of the hive, no matter how bad it gets. But
I like it.
Punish them. I say, hey, take charge. My Power Grid videos, I tell people to join and get involved to try to stop this from happening. I mean, it's okay to think about this like insurance. What you do if you have to. And you know what? It's fun sometimes to eat some wild plants and camp out. And
oh, yeah.
And, I would like the grid to be hardened. So if we had a solar chronal mass injection, we'd all just kick back and look at the light show and go, ooh and ah. Oh, crap, the world's coming down in. That's the 2 choices. It can be either way. Why aren't we saying ooh and ah? But the power companies are like fighting us. It's like, really, what's wrong with you people? But,
yeah. So, Greg, how do people join the cause? How do they get involved?
There's various different groups. Now, I do have a website you can go to and look on the links page. Power Grid Defense, all 3 words jammed together, .org. powergriddefense.org. And if you go on my channel and look at my Power Grid videos, in fact, a lot of the other videos too, I just paste that in the comment section, and I got like a long comment section. And some of those I'll talk about different things you can do and get to the links down there too. There's different organizations you can join to get involved in different things you can do. The key thing maybe is just go and talk to your EMA people, local and state.
And what does EMA stand for?
Emergency Management Association.
Okay.
It's your emergency providers, first responders. That's the name they go by, the moniker, and most places have a state director. I've been to talk to the state director, and I briefed him. I brought in Dr. Peter Vincent Pry and a EMP scientist who retired from the Army, and we went to Montgomery, the state capital of Alabama, the place where Jefferson Davis, and maybe you're named after, I don't know, Jeffrey.
Could be.
Yeah. Actually, I've stood on the spot where he got sworn in. I also been to the place in Georgia where he got captured. It's kind of neat.
I did too. I went in there when I was going up to the Georgia Guidestones and actually made a video that they would never let it go up. So I'm gonna have to go back and do it again. So yeah, that was a very interesting
Now I have shipworms to the Georgia Guidestones. I'm the one that addressed the shipworms who was like just a mile from the Guidestones. So maybe my worms will crawl under there.
Maybe your worms are under the Guidestones as we speak.
That might make them fall over, I reckon. Worm farmers might have a little way to undermine things, but you know what? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, Jim. I'm a conspiracy practitioner.
And that's what you really have to be. I mean, it's nice to talk about it, not good to worry about it, but why not prepare for it?
Exactly. But you know what we really need to have, Jeff? We need to formulate the open source conspiracy.
Meaning what, my friend?
Hey, we need to get a group of people, kind of like a tribe or organization that tries to get our society moving in a positive direction in spite of all the forces that would want to hold us down.
I would love to be involved in something like that. That's exactly what I'm stumbling around here trying to do from a more of a religious type of or a spiritual type of a avenue.
That is one aspect, because here's the key thing. I did a video and it got demonetized on YouTube, and maybe I should challenge it. But I did show a couple websites, and I think I said the word CRAP, and
yeah,
I talked a little bit about Bill Gates, not in too bad of a way, but maybe it was enough to even file appeal to them. They might just shut me down. I don't know. So I don't know if I want to push that one.
That's always been when they say you can appeal it, I always click the box and I start thinking, what if I'm making mad, they just take the whole thing down. Just let it go.
Just leave that one alone. But it's the name of that video is a nuke in every pot. And
ooh, I like it.
And it's all about technological proliferation, and it's based on the idea that technology is going to proliferate to such a point that we will reach the equivalent point of everyone, or at least organization, being able to have the power of weapons of mass destruction. And I come to this conclusion 20 years ago when I was developing rockets out of a garage, Jeffrey, to launch to space, something that took a superpower to do just 40 years earlier. Me and a handful of guys working part-time on a shoestring budget had the same capability level. And
isn't that amazing? So you're telling me you actually had the capability to put something into space?
Suborbital space.
Suborbital space, right.
Yeah, if we kept pushing it, I believe we could have got to the orbital side too. But so I got in the Guinness Book of World Records for one of our launches. I didn't even submit it. I found out about it later, and it was like crazy. But they actually got the date wrong on that. So
oh man, so you were launching balloons and things of that nature, right?
Right, launching balloons and launching rockets from the balloons. And so we developed hybrid rockets. The spinoff of the rockets we developed would be Spaceship One, Virgin Galactic kind of stuff. And actually, when I was chairman of the executive committee of the National Space Society, I hired George Whitesides, who's now the CEO of Virgin Galactic, to be the executive director of the National Space Society. I've had a varied background, and I've run the halls of Congress. I've done a lot of stuff in my days, Jeffrey, crazy stuff. And I've run from rockets too. And there's one hanging in Straight Dale that nearly killed me years ago. I had to run for my life. And the real reason I had to run from it is because of NASA. Somebody at NASA Safety didn't understand what to really be concerned with. And so NASA Safety nearly killed me. Now R1.
Greg, why the fascination with rocketry?
To get in space. But let me tell you, Allison's laws of rockets. And I formulated this 20 some odd years ago.
And you are Greg Allison.
Right. Law 1, rockets go boom. Law 2, rockets have always gone boom. Law 3, I need to help with my finger there. I do this hand. Law 3, rockets always will go boom. My job is making them go boom less often now, but there's risk with rockets. Maybe we'll find a better way to do it one of these days. We'll find some woo 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 woo.
Absolutely.
But that's a whole nother idea. I'm chatting a little bit with Rex about some of that stuff and some other.
I'll bet. Now, if
Rex wants to build a rocket, Rex, why? Why do I want to build a rocket now?
Well, being a rocket guy and being a NASA guy, do you think that if we are being visited from people from other planets or other places, that they're coming here through a type of propulsion, or is it more likely they're interdimensional type of travelers? Or another option?
That could be two different things, Jeffrey. I mean,
explain, please.
If you're interdimensional, you could be like right here, just in a different dimension. You just pop in, pop
Right.
out, pop in, pop out. I mean, dimensions. I believe in a multi-dimensional world. Now, I explained this in a Rex video once upon a time. What if I got my little funnel around here somewhere that I use as a prop, but I don't see it. But anyway, I kind of explained that, and you'd be interested in this, and then this will tie into some of your spiritual stuff. So let's go here.
Let's do it.
If I should find that funnel, that would be a real find where I put
We're talking to Greg Allison of Green Greg's.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna use this old cup.
All right, a red Solo cup. Somebody wrote a song about that.
This is the universe, Jeffrey. Now whether you believe in Big Bang or not, just for the purposes of discussion, let's say this is the beginning of the universe, and it moves forward in time this way. And at least, given the Doppler shift, the effects of called the Hubble constant, it seems that the universe is expanding because everything is red shift, red cup, that fits. And so the universe would be expanding outward with time if that were true.
Mm-hmm.
For any point in time, any present now, like right now, I could cut a slice of the universe and say this was all the past and this is all the future. Now this universe is wide. From the time it started, the time it ended, light has been traveling. And if it started 15 billion light years ago, and I don't care, people can debate that, the cows come home, that's not my point here. But let's just, for the purpose of discussion, go with the standard model and say the universe started 15 billion years ago. If you want to say 15,000, I don't care.
Right.
But if it's going to be really wide now. If it was 15 billion light years, then you've got 30 billion light years of light expansion. And matter may not expand that far, but it's wide. So in relativity, if you're going real fast, you can notice differences in time real quick. But across big distances, you get the same kind of effects. You have relativistic terms in all motion. It's just with small velocities, it takes long distances for these to add up. But if across the distance of the universe, if you're here, there's a kid on the other side of the universe, and I didn't make this up, you can find this on YouTube. If in other places, okay, and this in textbooks too, but there's actually nice videos on YouTube that explain this without using a solo cup, by the way, or a funnel. But I like this better for other reasons, and I'm gonna go into further depth than those videos go. So if you're over here and there's a kid on a bicycle over here, and the kid's just sitting still, and you cut the slice of now, you're in the same slice of now. But if that kid starts riding toward you across the distance of the universe, those little bitty relativistic terms in the equation add up so much that his slice of now shifts 300 years into your future. He stops, you're back to the same point. If he turns around and rides the other direction, it's 300 years in your past. Now that's got huge ramifications.
Staggering ramifications.
Yes, and you ought to pick up on this better than anybody, because that says in essence that everything that's ever been and ever will be is all here right now. But it also says that if we don't live in a multidimensional universe, the greater creator, God, is a tyrant, because you have no free will whatsoever. Every instance throughout all the future, which you pick your nose, has already been determined. And you have no choices, no free will whatsoever, if that's true. Now, I don't believe that. I do subscribe to more of a multi-world version, not quite the Copenhagen interpretation of the Heisenberg certain principle kind of thing, or the dual stellate experiment. But I'm actually more of a pilot wave guy than a Copenhagen. I could go into that if you really want me to, but let's cut all that aside. What I believe in is a multi-dimensional universe.
Multi-dimensional universe. Are all of those dimensions right here, right now?
Yeah, they're all side by side. And in essence, the whole universe is like a game set. And your mind plays through different tracks on it. For every quantum instant of time, you can expand. Maybe not in the Copenhagen interpretation says everything is infinite at every quantum instant, and in reality don't unfold until you look at it. I think Schrodinger's cat example, if you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Was a parody of that, but people took that as literal. Oh yeah, it's Schrodinger's cat. Schrodinger was trying to make fun of it, but so you see how things get turned around. But anyway.
Interesting.
So, all right, the deal, let me go back for the audience will understand. you have experiments in which they fire electrons at like two slits, and they come through and create a wave interference pattern. So if you're looking at it like it's a wave, you see a wave. But when you have like one slit, it behaves like a particle when it comes through. So you get what you're looking for in every case. When you're looking for a particle, you get a particle. When you look for a wave, you get a wave. And that really freaked out Heisenberg and Niels Bohr and all those guys. And in Copenhagen, they come up with this idea that time is like a wave and it collapses when you look at it. And, Schrodinger was poking fun at it. And the guy who come up with this pilot wave idea, which he says we actually time, space has these waves and the particles move along them, which I got other reasons for believing that's the case. But it kind of invalidates the Copenhagen interpretation, which a lot of mystics use to explain, we think whatever we think we make will materialize. I still think that's the case, but in a different way. But anyway, what it gets to is they thought literally that you create the universe as you think. Now I think what it really is your mind plays through different tracks in the multidimensional universe. That we have a multidimensional universe, and it's like a play set. And as you think things and imagine things as you are making decisions, your mind switches seamlessly through the various tracks. And sometimes they're right adjacent to each other. The only difference between this one and this one might be here, a buck step to the left on one foot, and over here, a step to the right. You wouldn't be able to perceive the differences. So if they meshed a little bit and intertwined, you'd never know it.
Greg, this is fascinating because today, and we hadn't talked, except for a little bit at LeakCon before this, and I was actually postulating, I was talking last night with Cynthia about how you can be talking to somebody and they just are like they're in a different world. They just don't get what you're saying. It's like there's no reality. And I was saying the term I came up for was, very amateurish. I said, is there such a thing as micro multi universes? I'm in this place, and here the bug stepped on the right foot. There we've overlapped, and their place the bug stepped on the left foot, but we just can't understand it. Is that possible?
Well, you can't disprove it. Now the Copenhagen guys will think it's bigger than that, but here's why that we may have a validation of it. We have something called quantum computing, and they use qubits, which are multidimensional, and they're getting results. The whole field of quantum computing seems to be maybe something. Now, physicists will throw rocks at me for saying this, but it may be some level of validation of this whole concept. But just from the moral standpoint, why in the heck would we only have one timeline and have to suffer through this universe? That would be the ultimate cruelty. Now,
interesting.
Let's go back to this cup thing.
All right.
Let's do a thought experiment here. Let's say, and I'm going to kind of.
I hear Toby Keith every time you pick that up. Red Solo cup. I lift you up. Let's have a party. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Party. Hey, why not? So, that's funny. But in any event, so think about this. Here's my biggest question. The biggest enigma to me, it's not even all that. The biggest enigma to me, Jeffrey, is why are we as spiritual beings, and I have reasons for it. I used to be atheistic at one point. I've been all over the religious map, from this, that, and the other to atheist, and now I'm something different. But and I've been definitely, the Christian sort and all that too. So, but why are we as spiritual beings living in physical bodies in a physical universe? Now I know you believe that we're in a reincarnation trap, and maybe we are, and a lot of people aspire to work their way out of it, to ascend and escape. Now think about this. If you're a spiritual being and you have all eternity, but everything's here and now, all the future of all the multiverses, all the past from beginning to end, it's an artifact. It's a thing, just like this cup. All of it, as vast as it may be, I would submit to you, as vast and multidimensional and mind-boggling as it might be to us, to a greater creator, it's a solo cup, a red solo cup.
Yeah, and an analogy on that, Greg, is I remember being in the Air Force, and the first time I ran up into the flight deck of a C-130, oh my gosh, it was like infinite to me. It just was mind boggling.
Miles and switches.
18 months later, I walk up in there. I could literally fly the thing, boom, 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 no problem. And so, even something as expansive as the universe.
Perfect. You're going where I want, right?
Yep.
The whole point is, if you've got all eternity, you're going to know everything there is to know for all eternity. And at some point, that is going to be infinitely boring. Think about it. I mean, you would go, I can't stand this. You would create a universe, shatter and splinter your soul into zillions of pieces, and go play in it, so you could forget all that. So,
wow, I like that.
So I would submit, you're in heaven. You just don't know
it. Most people would want to argue, "Oh, we're in hell," but no, I think you're right. We are in heaven. We just don't know it. And do you take it a step further to say that we're all God, and we that got bored and split ourselves up, so we're all pieces of God?
That's a possibility. Whatever the case is, he split himself up, or he made a lot of little entities, or whatever. Either case, it don't matter, because too much. I mean, it does from some spiritual level, but at some point, if you ascend and escape it all, you're going to reach that point of infinite boredom.
You would.
And you, it might be fun for a few zillion years, but at some point, Jeffrey, you're gonna say, enough of this. Let's create a play set and jump in it and experience things.
So if we are part of the infinite creator, then it would stand to reason that we are probably desiring to be infinitely creating.
Yes. What's more fun than creating? I love creating.
Nothing's more fun than creating. Nothing.
There you go. And that's the spark that's within us. That's how we resemble God. That's how we're made in the image of the greater creator. Now, I know, when it comes to the gods referred to by the ancients, they point to them. This God was here. This God was there. This God was the head of Ur, or this
right
on top of this ziggurat that they wrote first person in the cuneiform of the Sumerian text. I mean, the first person writings by Enki and Il or whatever, and these were horny little people running around,
they
whatever.
were.
It's like, really? And for all their powers, they had limitations. Like Enki had trouble producing the sun, yet he could create human beings.
Yeah, interesting. And Greg, Moonlight Herbalist, who appears to be quite attractive, asked if you're up for beer pong.
That inspired. Jeffrey, I don't drink too much beer. There was a day when I did, but if I have too many beers, it'll make my heart go to.
We're in the same boat. I can't drink even one now. It makes me really, really sick. But the thing I was thinking is, if what we're postulating is correct, then it just slams into my mind the ludicrosity of, with all of these overlaps and all of these differences and all of these infinite possibilities, the ludicrosity of trying to preach to people that Jeff's way is the only way. Jeff's God is the only God. And if you don't follow Jeff's God, you're going to go to a really bad place and burn forever and forever and forever. And it just, even the idea of getting on YouTube and saying, you got to do it this way or you're wrong. Really what we're doing is, Jeff is on YouTube saying, hey, if you're on Jeff's wavelength, if you're in Jeff's little slice of reality, let's get together and maybe some of these things will work. If you're not on Jeff's slice of reality, then that's okay.
Well, let's establish some axioms. God is love, right?
Absolutely.
God made everything, right?
Absolutely.
So he made us, and he's love. Now, this God that made everything and is love, we're made by him. So the desires we have were made by him, right?
Absolutely. And actually, Greg, it says there's a verse that says God will give you the desires of your heart. People think that means you'll get whatever you want. No. He gives you the actual desires of your inner being.
That's in your DNA. It's in your programming.
Exactly. The desire to create being chief among it.
But religion teaches us, if we follow those desires, we're put on this world for some short, itty-bitty span of time. And God is so remote, that with huge amplifiers, you wouldn't hear him. You got these hormones coursing through your veins. Do this, do this, do this. Ah! Now, if you answer the programming of your DNA and hormones as opposed to that little squeak voice from you couldn't hear with an amplifier or something written by an ancient zillions of years ago. If you follow that program in just a little bit, then you're going to burn in hell for all eternity. But God is love. But He made you with all that. What? It don't even make walking around sense, Jeffrey. It don't make no kind of sense to me at all.
It doesn't. That dog don't hunt.
That dog don't hunt. Or something really
or
wrong.
Something like that.
Now, what's wrong with that picture is religion and government were created together to reinforce each other and control the people.
I just said that this morning. It's amazing.
Oh, it's cool.
That's really true. I mean, people want to talk about the fear and guilt control matrix, and I mean, the religion was at the core of it. And folks, I hate to say it, but religion was the first fake news.
Bingo. Now let's take all this back full circle. When it comes to surviving and the challenges in front of us, when you have religions that teach that if you don't believe this way, off with your head, and they create hatred, I've got a concept. One of the things I talked about at LeeCon was a concept for a home that you can live out of and make a living out of and live very prosperously on 1/10 of an acre for a family of 4, grow all your food practically, and have your whatever little industry or whatever you want. You could actually make a living out of this place. It would be almost zero impact on the environment. It would be resistant. If you're under sea level, you're going to drown.
Right. Some things don't change.
You're fluxed, as Diamond would say, when he's using better words than others.
He is.
Flux. I like that. As an electrical engineer, flux, that has some meaning. But anyway.
Yep.
So it would be earthquake proof, fire proof, tornado proof, almost everything. I mean, it would be a beautiful home. It's like Earthships on steroids is my concept.
Oh, I love it.
But it would have a lot more growing area associated with it than a typical Earthship. And that is my concept in a nutshell. Now, I did brief it, and some people saw that briefing, which is not on the video. I went from worm farming to that, and I called my talk from the dirt to the stars, basically.
Oh, I like that.
And it does tie in together because the same type of habitat could work in space. And I show and illustrate that. And you do need that ecological system. But to call this back together, we can take away the stresses of economics. We can take away the stresses in our society because people don't want to shoot each other. What we can't take away is the religious aspect. When somebody's got this faith, this belief in them that I got to kill you because you don't think like me. And all religions at some point in another history have had some guilt associated with that kind of, well, not all of them, a lot of them have had guilt associated with that type of thinking. And, going back to that nuke in every pot video, what that was all about was saying, we've got to learn to get along. That's the key to survival. We have to learn as a species to get along, because when everybody's got a nuke, they're going to start lobbing them at some point.
Yep.
And if you ever saw the 1954 movie, or 1956 maybe it was, The Forbidden Planet, it was about, the backdrop of that movie, the backdrop of that movie was a enormously more advanced civilization than even we were when we were out there exploring the stars, that they found the remnants of, who wiped themselves out in a night. Once they invented the technology, it would give them anything they wanted in their mind, because when they fell asleep, the monsters from their id came forth and destroyed the world. Well, we don't need that kind of technology to do that. I mean, we're on the cusp of it today with the biological technologies that we have at our fingertips right now, Jeffrey. So we've got to start learning to quit fanning the flames of hatred. But see, hatred is good business for government and religion, for all government and all religion, because you need us to defend you against these guys over here. And if they don't have bad guys, they're going to go create bad guys.
That's right.
Because they'll be out of business if they don't have somebody to tell you that you got to, you need them to defend you against these guys over there. Well, if everybody's living around in little habitats where they got every darn thing they want, and somebody comes over and puts a rifle in your hand, says you need to go shoot the guy on the other side of the hill, you can go, why? When they do the same thing to him, he's going to look at him like, are you kidding me? What? You got to be kidding me. What for? That's the kind of world we need. But the only last objective to calm the flames down is to deal with the religious aspects of it. But when people are so ingrained with it, how do you overcome these religious aspects? That's why I'm glad to be on your show. How do you, this is a good question for you and your followers to contemplate. How do you overcome the flames of hatred? Now, you're not necessarily, I know how you look at Abrahamic religion. And we get a lot of those flames of hatred within the Abraham's sphere against different elements of it.
Absolutely.
Christians, the Jews, the Christians, the Arabs, I mean, not Arabs, Muslims, I should say, excuse
Yep.
me. They're all of the same core, but they want to wipe each other out. And, it's kind of funny, the Muslim prophecies are almost a mirror, negative image of the book of Revelations.
It is. It's amazing. It's like, I got a golden doodle here and I got a German shepherd. It's like them wanting to kill each other, and they're both dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not the same kind of dog I am, but you're still a dog.
My next door neighbor is a Muslim guy, sweetest guy you'd ever meet. I just went and had dinner with a guy, a Persian guy, which is from Iran. Sweetest guy you'd ever meet. The closest restaurant to me is a Greek restaurant run by a Persian guy called 5 A's. If you ever go there, Saeed, there's a guy that runs. He's wonderful. I think the world of nice guy. And my main study buddy in college was a guy from Tehran. It wasn't that many years earlier. I was at Fort Bragg, packed up, the Pope Air Force Base, about to go over there.
Yep.
The Iranian hostage mission.
That's interesting you mentioned that, Greg, because I've met several people over my life that are from Iran, however you say it.
Smart people.
And every one of them was very smart, very nice, very courteous.
Daugherty complex in this country. We think we're so much smarter and so much better. Bull. Those are really smart people over there. Don't shortchange them. And in fact,
every one of them super. And it's interesting you mentioned they have a restaurant. Every one of them are very, very entrepreneurial.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, the food's to die for in mid.
Yeah.
I mean, try shawarma. I mean, the food is just. I dated a girl whose dad was Lebanese for a few years.
Yeah.
And she introduced me to Mideastern food. This was back in early 90s and late 80s, early 90s, that time frame. And oh my God, I love it. It's great food. And I love Indian food. In fact, I grow turmeric. I grow a lot of turmeric.
You mentioned that. And great medicinal properties as well.
Absolutely. And so I love that food. And here's what I've observed in my travels. And my ex-wife was from Nairobi, Kenya. So, we have the beautiful child twins. The kid I mentioned who's now started out as an engineering intern, she's my youngest daughter. She comes from that marriage. And beautiful, smart child. And she's also sings opera.
Wow.
And likes to act and various things. So she's a very talented kid. She's got some strong pipes, very opinionated about things.
Sounds a lot like somebody else I've had on this show before with a big hat on.
Yeah. Where would she get something like that? I don't
exactly.
know. But anyway, so the point I'm going to make here is anywhere you go in the world, people are people. I don't care what they look like, what the culture is. It's the core. You know what? You know how we all say yes, we do this all over the world. No is this. We all smile or we do. We got the same. And in fact, most places ask them, how do you say mother? And most will say mom or something very close. Mom.
Something very close. German, Mutti, something very close.
Yeah,
and I remember, Greg, when I first, born and raised in the United States, never been out of the United States. When I went over, and I've traveled all over, I've been on 5 continents, and I was surprised to learn, being an American, and we're the best, we're the the top. I was surprised to learn that there's a lot of other smart people in this world that have some ideas, and some of them are even better than the ones we come up with.
Oh yeah. We just happen to be at the top of the ziggurat at the moment,
We do. And you think about it, I was walking down the streets of Germany, and I was walking thinking, everything I'm looking at is twice as old as the United States. So maybe I should listen to these people. They might have some interesting ideas.
Well, I've been to Torino, or Turin, as you might know it.
Yep.
Italy. I actually saw the shroud when I was there.
Oh, did you?
I did. And of course they had a Roman wall there. It goes back to the Roman era. And we don't have anything comparable to that.
No, we don't.
And That's an amazing city. It's very different. I actually felt more alien in Italy than I did in Moscow. I mean, in Italy, I thought I was in another world. Moscow, I kind of felt at home.
When did you go to Moscow? What year?
2010, March of 2010.
Yeah, I went to Moscow in the 80s, and it was very alien then.
Oh, man, that's when the communism was full force.
And there was no colors, nobody looked at you. It was very alien. It was like, wow, this is 50 years ago, and there was just a feeling of dread and defeat there.
Well, that's because of the system they had on top of it.
Absolutely, but the Russian people, I mean, wow.
People are people, and
Yep.
at the core, people want the same things. They have the same spirit in their core. I don't care what you look like; it don't matter.
Yep.
Inside, you have a spirit, a soul, and what people want is a chance to be successful, to survive and thrive, and to have children and provide a good life for them.
Yeah. And if they go to your website, it sounds like they can find some very practical, usable strategies to create exactly such a life for themselves.
Right. Now, my ultimate goal is that people will actually move into and settle space. That's a big goal. And you can't have an Armageddon if you're going to go to space. I mean, you've been talking against Armageddon quite a bit in here. So,
right.
Now we got challenges.
We do.
We got to knock down. That's what I think we do. We kick the door open. We try to knock them down. We may not succeed. We might get wiped out. It's possible, but my gosh, I want to go out fighting. I don't want to just, give up. Oh my God, it's going to hit us. No. Kick the door down and go in the room. So my goal is to see humans living in space in a big way. Zillions of people you can support in our solar system from the resources that we have.
On other planets or just in space?
Just in free space and rotation facilities that provide artificial gravity. You have trees and lakes and rivers and mountains growing inside. They're just like little mini worlds. And we on Earth we're sitting on a ball 8,000 miles in diameter. We live with a very thin sliver on the edge, the very surface of that ball. In fact,
great point.
If the Earth were a 12-foot bronze sphere polished like a mirror, and you walked up to it and breathed your breath on it, the condensate of your breath on that bronze sphere would be deeper in the oceans, the Earth, and the cracks in it would be higher than the mountain. I mean, everything is so big, it's nothing. And if you look at when the astronauts are going around Earth, and when they're looking edge on at a sunrise or sunset, which you get every 45 minutes, by the way, when they're in low Earth orbit, because you're orbiting about once every 90 minutes. The atmosphere is very thin. In fact, I used to launch balloons at 20 miles altitude. At 20 miles, you've only got 1% of the atmosphere left, which is the same as what's on Mars. 1% of atmosphere. 99% of everything's under that, and most of it's really close to Earth. I mean, go to the Rocky Mountains, get up about 9,000 feet. I started getting a little dizzy,
Absolutely.
The air is down close. Our biosphere is very, very, very thin. And so that gives us a measure of fragility. And our society is also a technological society in the way we operate. We think everything's robust. No, it's not. I got a video on that too about the fragility of our society that people really ought to watch. And what that does, it gives you respect for where we're at and why we need to protect it, why we need to work and pay attention to things to keep this thing running as best as we can, and why we need to get along. Because a lot of people think, oh, well, if it gets kicked in, we'll just be living like in the 1800s, it'll be okay. No, it won't. We got to keep that from happening. And if you watch my videos, you'll see why. But I got this other channel that's about going into space. I have a little fun with it. I call it Galactic Gregs.
And it's funny. I've seen it.
Green Gregs, and I got Galactic Gregs. So I've had some funny videos on Galactic Gregs, and a couple of them are just me and Rex, doing LARP sessions, BS. And
what does LARP stand for?
Live action role play.
Okay.
And one of them was I'm describing how to beat the crap out of the space aliens. You could take what I say on there and you could apply it and you could absolutely do it. Absolutely. Kick the door in and go through. There is nothing that can stop us. And if there are other gods working out there, that maybe that's what they're scared of. If we are determined, we can, maybe that's why we couldn't have a Tower of Babel or whatever. I don't know. You're the one that studies that stuff.
I agree with you 100%, Greg. Tell people once again where they can find your information.
Okay, I've got 2 YouTube channels. One is Green Greg's. It's more homesteading, prepping, gardening, and power grid defense, that kind of topics. And then I got one, it's about space. And I'm gonna do more serious videos. I'm about to have some fun. It's my last one I was having a little bit of a good time with, where I was talking about space tourism. So it's
Right.
vacation in space vacation. Check that out. And it's about the NASA's just announced they're going to allow commercial interest
Yep.
and tourists on the International Space Station. Now I started out just cutting up, but then I get into talking about what it really is and what it means and the ramifications of it. So it's a good video, but I have some fun with it. You know, you got to have a little fun.
You do.
Some people are just too much stick in the mud, too serious all the time, and they're not having. We're in this. Hey, we're in this thing. You know, we might as well make the best out of it. We're in it. You know, this isn't heaven. Why the hell would it turn it into a HE?
I'm with you, my friend. I'm with you.
And you know, we have a holy mission to honor this universe by being the eyes and ears of it, and we can appreciate it and enjoy life, and that's part of the universe. We give back to it through doing that.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Greg Allison. I want you to check him out. Greg, I hope that you'll come back real soon. We'll have some more of these rollicking discussions. And I can't wait to get to your channel and start going through some of those videos and start being part of the solution and finding some real good ways to get myself in as best position as I can, whatever happens. And, hey, have some fun along the way.
That's my point. And enjoy the life. But check out both my channels. Subscribe to them, folks. They both come from different places, but they really go to the same place because it's all one thing.
It's all right there. Ladies and gentlemen, for Greg Allison, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. Remember, we're the last generation of real humans. Maybe we're going to have some more generations out in space, but at the very least, it's time for us to get busy. Nice to have you all here tonight. We'll see you again real soon. Go visit Greg's channel. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, wishing you the best of the rest of the weekend.